A young woman on social media pretends to be a loving mother who cannot live without her 3-year-old daughter. And one day she simply locks the child in the apartment and leaves for many days, leaving her without food or water, pretending that it was just an accident. In this video, I will tell you about the case of Maria Plenkina. Hi friends, you're watching the Drones channel, and today I want to tell you about the case of Maria Plenkina. And some details of this case are so horrifying that it was very widely discussed in Russia, and people were shocked. How can own mother do this to her child? Anyway, if you will find this video interesting, please leave a like at the end and let's begin. It all happened in the city of Kirov in Russia. This is an unremarkable, not wealthy city to the northeast of Moscow. Maria Plenkina was an ordinary girl from an average family. She spent her youth frequently drinking and enjoying herself in different companies while consuming lots of alcohol. By the age of 17, Maria became pregnant by a young man whom she barely knew. She hoped to start a family with the father of the child. However, the young couple did not register their relationship. But a month after the birth of their daughter, Christina, the couple broke up. Maria's mother believed that it would be better for her daughter to have an abortion, but Maria decided to keep the baby. Maria was left to raise her daughter alone. She moved to live in an apartment that belonged to her mother, while continuing her carefree life even after having a child. Maria would go to clubs and could leave for several days to live with her friends and acquaintances, leaving little Christina in the care of her mother. She also constantly borrowed money from her mother, her friends and boyfriends, and even sometimes wrote to her mother's friends on social networks, asking for small amounts of money in debt, almost never returning it. At the same time, Maria's relationship with her mother were strained, and they had constant conflicts, including conflicts over the fact that Maria spent little time with her child, leaving her in care of her mother. After another argument, Maria's mother left the apartment and left her to live alone with her child. Soon, Maria started a relationship with another young man, but it ended really fast, in the early 2019. Since Maria now was left alone with Christina, she had no one to leave her child with when she needed to leave the apartment for some time. But Maria still wanted to have fun with her friends, and she wasn't really concerned about what could happen to her child when she was not returning home for 1 or 2 days. On social media, Maria still tried to appear as a perfect mother by posting photos with her daughter, giving advice to friends on parenting, and pretending to devote all of her time to her child. On February 13, 2019, Maria left her 3-year-old daughter Christina in the apartment alone as she did before and went about her business. Plenkina also turned off the water in the apartment and left 1 yogurt, some chicken leftovers, and a can of sardines for food. During her absence, Plenkina visited a club and a hairdresser and met her friends. At night, she stayed at the apartment of one of her female friends. Maria simply did not return home for several days, knowing that her 3-year-old daughter was alone in the apartment, with almost no food and no water. Plenkina turned off the water in the apartment, supposedly to prevent her daughter from wetting the floors. And she didn't care that Christina had no access to drinking water. And she didn't left much food either. Obviously, 3-year-old child cannot open the can of sardines herself, so she only had 1 yogurt and some chicken leftovers. And as police later said, they were almost fully eaten by Maria before she left the apartment, so apparently little Christina was left without any food very quickly. And it is really hard to believe that 23-year-old Maria couldn't understand that a 3-year-old child wouldn't be able to survive for many days with having no water and basically just 1 yogurt at the apartment. On the February 20th, 8 days after Plenkina left Christina at home, it was Christina's birthday. Plenkina made another post on social media about her little girl's birthday, even though she had not been home for almost 8 days. She allegedly planned to go home to her daughter later that same day. Earlier that day, Maria's mother decided to go to their apartment to congratulate her granddaughter Christina with her birthday. She first suspected that something's wrong when she was at the door of the apartment, but behind the door there was only dead silence, even though it was supposed to be a birthday party for her granddaughter. When she entered the apartment, she discovered Christina's lifeless body. She was in a state of shock and immediately called an ambulance, but it was too late. The doctors, when they arrived, pronounced Christina dead. The reason for the child's death was dehydration, starvation, and hypothermia. The police arrived at the scene immediately after the doctors called them. For days and nights, 3-year-old Christina was alone at home. She had no water and quickly ate the remaining food she could reach. The windows in the apartment were open, and the child was not only dying of hunger and thirst, but also freezing. There were garbage, toys, and spilled laundry detergent scattered around the apartment. The water valves were turned off, and the child could not drink. Experts determined that Christina had tried to eat laundry detergent due to intense hunger she was experiencing. When the doctors examined the girl's body, they found that at 3 years old, she weighed only 8.5 kilograms, while the normal weight is almost 2 times more than this. Investigators have also determined that Christina, having climbed onto the windowsill, threw toys out the window, maybe trying to call for help that way. But the saleswomen from the store on the first floor of the apartment building did not attach any significance to it. Who knows what the child could have been upset about? Or maybe someone just dropped the toys accidentally. Soon, police arrested Maria Plenkina. Immediately after her arrest, she began to pretend that she was repentant and didn't understand how this could have happened. She came up with ridiculous excuses in an attempt to avoid a long prison sentence. When people found out about what happened, they became furious and demanded the harshest punishment for Plenkina. Comments on social media were extremely outraged. Local residents also started bringing candles, stuffed animals, and bottles of water and food to the building where the girl died, creating a memorial there. Many people also had questions for Christina's grandmother, who knew about her daughter's lifestyle but didn't seem to care about her granddaughter's fate and didn't visit her for 8 days. Some even claimed that when the grandmother returned to the apartment and found Christina's body, that they heard Maria calling her to make sure that her daughter was dead, but this wasn't later proven. While the trial began, the whole country was watching it, expecting the maximum punishment for Plenkina. During the trial, she still pretended that everything had happened accidentally. Witnesses in court included acquaintances and friends of Plenkina. The court also announced the conclusion of the psychiatrist. It was noted that Plenkina is an infantile by nature, selfish, inclined to self-justification, and accuses everyone around her of her own problems. Maria lacks empathy and sympathy for her loved ones. However, the expertise recognized the defendant as sane. She does not have mental illnesses or psychiatric disorders and is capable of understanding the consequences of her actions. Those present at the trial noted Plenkina's strange speech, confusion in words, and an abundance of insignificant information and circumstances. When asked how could she leave the child alone at home without water and food, she just answered, "I don't know." She also said that she wanted to come back every day, but she just didn't, and that she never wanted her daughter to die. But while Christina was slowly dying in the apartment, Maria was wandering with her friends to cafes and clubs. She also hoped that she would be found guilty of causing death by negligence, not the murder, because in this case, she could have faced only a few years in prison. Maria still admitted, as she said, her indirect guilt in her daughter's death. But through the trial, she did not cry even once, even when the prosecutor spoke of what the little girl had to endure. The first time Plenkina cried was only before the verdict was read, when she realized that she could not avoid a long prison sentence. On January 18th, 2020, Maria Plenkina was found guilty of murdering a young child with particular cruelty and sentenced to 13 years in prison. She will be released at the age of 35. And considering the fact that in any prison she ends up, her cellmates will know what she did, her prison term will likely be very difficult. So basically, a court didn't believe Maria when she was telling that it was an accident and she just forgot about her daughter or thought that everything will be fine, because she was sentenced for murder. That means that the court ruled that Plenkina knew what she was doing and she deliberately wanted to kill her daughter. Journalists even decided to talk to some prison inmates to find out what would happen to Maria in prison when her cellmates will learn about what she did. And they said that Christina will be most likely severely beaten, tortured, and even starved so she would be able to feel what her daughter felt when she was dying. And she will be probably spending first couple of years in prison while being tortured before other inmates might soften towards her. And we can have different opinions about such things, but this is the reality of Russian prisons, and the life of people who did horrible things to kids there is almost always a torture. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Tell me, what do you think about this case? Do you find cases like this interesting? If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.